sanitation. The last point I want to make is about, just before I make that point, so violence must think differently. It's not war that, like it's not war. I don't want to go take land with war or anything, but if needs be, I will. I will. We've got the right. Those things of French Revolution, it was violence. But they are celebrated, they are the basis of a lot. That's the basis, that's the epistemic violence basis for all the individual, the what, all the categories in the social sciences. It's the French Revolution, the Cartesian, the Jacobins. Very violent people. They cut that guy's head in the square there and left him to bleed for death or something. I don't know, but it's a very violent. But when it's us, destruction of property. Blacks are just being destructive. It's not revolution. But when it happens in the West, it's revolution. The French Revolution. There's no account there of how many books were banned or universities were banned. It's like, oh, the revolution happened, now there's a new society, the tabula rasa. They give themselves a clean slate and they imagine a new humanity, which became this destructive capitalist thing we're stuck with. So I make no apology for the affirmation of violence. I make no apology that our people must fight back. We've given too many, right, the other cheek. We have no cheeks left to give anymore. You must hit back and hit hard. You must hit back, you must even hit the colonial potentate that is trying to represent the system to you. If you could oppose Mangope, you must oppose Mande. And we make no apology for that. So the last point, Prof, some very sorry I go on, is language. I think that, again, it's the failure here of maybe in anthropology. I never came to the anthropology. I did do a course in anthropology. I didn't go rise there. I don't know if there's a course on the anthropology of language, so that we heal ourselves from, to properly say what is the language of the master. The master can rule you with your own Sesotho. So what Chip was doing earlier on was to demonstrate to you how Zuma takes the tools, you understand, the language expressions, and says, fees must fall as well. So he's adapting, but that guy is the one that is responsible for making the fees fall. So the master can speak like you, can also say decolonization, yes. So that shows you that we're talking about a different language than that symbolic organization called Sesotho. But another important thing there, that language debate often wants to commit us to the past, as blacks. So when Africans must fall, they say, oh, but what about Sesotho? Why don't you just go invest in Sesotho or in Xhosa and all those things? No, I don't know. Language must move on. It must change all the time. And Africans must fall. Africans is the institutional organization of white privilege at the moment. That's how you still get segregated classrooms. Like Africana, no colors go there. Very few of them if they do. But even, it's not there. The Western Cape University was supposed to be an Afrikaans university. The University of the Western Cape. It's not now, because black people, the oppressed in South Africa decided a long time ago that they don't like Afrikaans. Not the language, that institutional thing that happens in the university called Afrikaans. In fact, to say Afrikaner is to say white person. Go ask the Afrikaner philosophers, and it's to say white people. So that whole movement is important. It's a decolonial movement. So, but it gives us an opportunity to understand language broader than that thing they're trying to trap us in. Speak Xhosa, man. Be black. You understand? So we've got to commit ourselves to cultural activity, which is the point of Fanon. Commit yourself to creativity. And I can tell you now, if our social sciences were married to the township, most of these problems have been resolved a long time ago. They're actually very easy questions in the township. Thank you.
Okay. question at me specifically. And for me, the problem is precisely this conception of an inside and an outside in the university space. Because for me, students and staff are of the world, and we don't leave our worlds behind when we enter this space. Those worlds are there. The point is to have some kind of circulation, and precisely because those worlds are in the university classroom, it's not just about taking this beautiful knowledge, to use your term, out there, but it is also about the beautiful knowledges that are right here, and about hearing those and speaking those and making spaces for those to be spoken. So that's the one thing for me. The second thing is about, engage, management or executives and academics say to students, engage, don't fight. Right? Now, in my experience, and it's just been a few, right, evenings or days that I've spent in Solomon House, is that students were engaging. It is the executive that was not engaging, and that is what broke my heart. Okay? That is what broke my heart. Personally and politically, I suppose I'm of a different generation, and I do not advocate violence. Okay, so I'm in a different place from where Mbuyiseni is, even though I can see the logic of it. But the last thing that I want for myself and for people that I love is for them to be dehumanized through struggle. About, finish your PhD and then have your own independent mind. That is exactly what my experience was. I'd finished my PhD, right? And then I was free to decide what it is I wanted to explore. And so what I try to do now, given that that was my experience, is to say to honors, masters, and PhD students is that does not have to be your path. And if there is anything that I can do, right, to prevent you from having the path that I have, tell me what that is. And that is what I will do. And that is the basis for my teaching, is that I do not want students in my classrooms to have walked the path and the circuitous route that I have had to walk to be here today. And at the same time, that circuitous route has given me, if I may, wisdom. Thank you.
So, I, also as a so-called professor, to Musa's point, as a temporary professor, if I can put it that way, I think that it's a very, very important point, and it comes straight back to Shibu's point about power. That what we're talking about is power here. And the relationship between faculty and students is a relationship. It's a relationship of a lot of different things, but at its heart is a relationship of power. So the question is, how do we challenge that? And that is really, in the previous session we were talking about the sustainability of the student movement. One of the issues of sustainability is how you are able to sustain or maintain your collective power so that you can talk to the professoriate strongly, not in fear, not in individual relationship. And that's my anxiety about the problems of the present, is that you're losing that power to be able to do that to us. Now, just in my own personal experience, what I found a transformative experience is to be confronted by a group of students and told, this is the problem. This is where you're going wrong. This is what we need to make the thing go right. And it's clear that one of the key problems is the supervision relationship. So, myself and Zimitri, okay, we can say that with our students, challenge us sufficiently that we behave in a way that supports your project. So the one student said to me, postgraduate student said, I insist that when my supervisor reads my work, he or she must read what I'm reading. It's not acceptable to make comments on my work without understanding what I'm reading. Whereas the professor, of course, out of the arrogance of our schooling as professors, is very willing to comment on everything, whether having read it or not. So that's a challenge that the students have to make. Now the question is going to, and I think this is a deep and serious discussion that is going to take place over time. What kind of mechanisms can an empowered student body put in place to protect themselves in that supervision relationship and protect themselves so that some of the stories that we've heard today cannot happen in future? Because by individualizing and taking up a disciplinary inquiry, so what is your choice? You withdraw. Fortunately, there was an alternative home. But not everyone can withdraw. So how do we shift that power? Seems to me to be one of the crucial questions here. And I think there are some ways of addressing it, and we need to talk about those. We need to find those mechanisms and exercise them to also hold the professors, the temporary professors, if I can put it that way, to account. And I think that the question of privilege has to arise in that discussion as well. Because actually, Zimitri, the problem is worse now. Because it's not just the PhD. There's another new thing that's been invented called the postdoc. Yes. That's an apprenticeship as well. You're also vulnerable. You're not a staff, really. And so it goes on and on and on. Until you become a professor, as we discussed this morning, in 20 years' time, by which point you've been so tamed and so inducted into the system that you're reproducible. So we have to change that from the beginning. So I wanted to make that comment simply as almost a former professor. There were some hands on this side, which I'm going to take, because we had hands only from that side. And I'm taking it for granted that this discussion is a very important one, even though it's only a discussion, and that we'll go on, beyond Hopper's one. So Silo, you've got
can I just make an announcement? The talk by Nelson Maldonado Torres tomorrow at 10, which was supposed to be at CISA, will be here, and it's because they don't have electricity. So they're not sure that it will be there next time. So that's the first thing. The second is that I think we do have a program in here at 2, so I have to wind up a little bit before.
We'll be out before 2. Unless you want to disrupt that program.
You can. I don't know what it is. You may want to.
That's
I want to speak about the shocks that Mbuyiseni was talking about. That West students were shocked to have been met, the true black. Actually, I was shocked when I came to West and found that black people are behaving like this. Because where I come from, burning and closing down campus was an annual event. It was not something that is far-fetched, that you really have to think about, because you go through this violent system every day of your life. And, almost, we were in Kimberley. We were housed under an institute called National Institution for Higher Education, but I was studying with the University of Free State. We've shut down, we've burned buildings, we've done all sorts of funny things. So Black University emerges and have a mini protest. SABC, boom, covers it. Okay, it's like, because we were not seen as a university, even though we were studying with different universities, we were not really important. Our strikes, our struggles, our grievances were not important, even to Jonathan Jansen. But a very new, small clique emerges. Because it gets university status on its own, all of a sudden their struggles becomes more important. And then the vice chancellor comes from Wits University, which is Yusuf Palin. Had it been maybe another vice chancellor who comes from DUT, the attention might have not been the same. So I had a different shock towards the university. And when people were saying, let's have a non-violent strike, they toppled the back, they beat people up, and all of that is not violence. They go to union buildings, where students are the ones breaking the fence. But because of the presence of TUT in that space, all of a sudden, these things change and become a TUT thing. I was there between the people who were burning the toilets. Because I love the burning, But because I come from Wits, I cannot be associated with that. It was the TUT students that were burning and all that. But it is all a lie. All of us were burning there. All of us were breaking the fence. So these dynamics, I got these two shocks. Coming to Wits, I got shocked that actually we are behaving like this. And when I read the news report and what Wits University is saying about violence, I also got shocked. But why are you lying? Because they are lying to us. They are lying to themselves. And also, I also like to attend the point, this possible lynching, that we should not, see it only as a process of where physical bodies are being, disrupted, destroyed, killed, and all that. The infrastructure here at Wits, you come here at Wits, there are buildings you cannot access because you're not registered in that faculty, or, there's gatekeeping of particular knowledge. This thing of buying knowledge. I cannot go to maybe a physics lab and try and see something there because I did not register to buy that kind of knowledge. It is also a lynching process that says you can only exist in this particular space and cannot go far beyond this space until you register for this course. So now the students building, who are taught to build in civil engineering, and they take that mentality, they go and build buildings that are lynching black people every day. I went to union buildings for the strike, and I went before the strike to union buildings. It's a different entrance when you are invited and when you go there on your own accord. I saw how violent the buildings is, extremely violent. There's a huge place they call this, it's a union buildings lawns. But when we got there were no lawns. It was a place full of dust. I don't know, because you can see the lawn is, was just taken out. Maybe it was punishment for us. Black people will be here. It must be as dusty as possible, when we are chanting and all that. And when you look at how we're trying to actually enter or get entrance or access to the union buildings, we see, when I come back, I'm like, those people, if it was an apartheid regime, they could have just, boxed us in there, swallowed us and killed us all. That's actually how the building is, and then we're using the same building to administer South Africa. That same building that was used to lynch black people, and we're using it to administer South Africa in a very same way. So the lynching process has not stopped, and I don't think it will stop while we still have these colonial structures who we continue to administer black lives from. So this thing of lynching, you go to the township. I grew up in the township. I've lived in the township. When I go back home now, I'm going to the township. The system there, it's lynching. It controls mobility of black people. It cannot be in the city until after 10. You won't have transport to go back. It is still a control of of black people's mobility. And until you acquire those resources to assimilate into the class of buying cars, then we are still restricted to that, and hence people are aspiring towards white supremacist ideology so that their movement cannot be restricted. Because we're still living in the same geographical, the colonial geographical creation of, and then it reproduces the colonial subjects over and over again. Our understanding of the township, our understanding of the rural, those villages, those the homelands, they were colonial creation, and we still have them. And that's a lynching process. We still have Zululand, we still have Transkei, we still have Ciskei, which absolutely makes no sense that we still restrict people according to their, so-called tribes and ethnicity. And then you say that we are post-apartheid. You collapse two post-homelands, Ciskei and Transkei, and create Eastern Cape. That's ridiculous. And then, yes, lastly, we still have 4 provinces. It is Gauteng, it is Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. And then the rest are just, you know, I don't know, labor house or...
It's for looting.
Thank you.
So I'm looking at the time because we have to be, you know, we have to start moving just before 10 to 2.
Yeah,
So I think what we're going to do, we're just going to take speakers from the floor. I don't think we need to come back in a hierarchical fashion to the front here. But people, please just keep your comments quite short because we don't have a lot of time. So was there another hand at the back on that side? I see that hand. But was there another hand? Okay, I see. Okay, so
Did you say Mom Dediwe?
yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm impressed. Hi, my name is Dediwe. I'm a cleaner here, one of the outsourced workers. Before I didn't attend this kind of spaces. I recently started attending, and I'm loving it. Ne? But I stand up to speak for all the outsourced workers who are not afforded the opportunity to be here. Because right now, as we speak, they're busy cleaning the cases for you guys. Ne? I see that our opinion does not matter in these kinds of talk, especially this decolonization talk. Ne? So to the organizers, my question is, do they think that outsourced workers have no ideas on how this university can be transformed or decolonized, whatever? I have a problem announcing that. And as my brother there indicated that even this space is not decolonized because it's professors and students, and what he didn't mention is that there is no workers here. And I want to know, are we not allowed to participate in these discussions? I mean, are we not suitable to be in the panel like you guys? And do you think we don't have brains? We can't think, and we can't give this space our thoughts, our ideologies of how we foresee a decolonized university. I urge to you to involve us from now on. And who knows, maybe if you had involved us from the beginning, maybe this mimicking and this repetition that Mbuyiseni speaks about, we would have put an end to it. And I tell you this, and you better believe me, because I have a perfect example. Look at what we did to outsourcing, of course, together with the students. And you can see outsourcing is busy dying a slow death. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be called on to make an answer, so I will a bit later. So 2 hands on this side.
Mandla. Oh yeah, you got me fired up, sister. Okay, I'm also gonna, yeah. There's a lot of things, like you were right, Shibu, when you were talking about the contradictions, that I'm a fallist and we've been speaking the language of decolonization and all of that, and there are a lot of contradictions that I see in myself and in other fellow fallists. And for me, okay, let me start here with the idea that Fanon brings when he tries. Yes, I'm sorry to bring up Fanon. With the idea that Fanon brings, but I must add that we bring up Fanon not from a space where we read Fanon and we say, oh, he's talking the right thing, so let's follow him. But then we go through the experience and then we read Fanon and we're like, oh, this person actually understands us. He gives the words to what we are feeling and what we are going through. So it is not an external critique of Fanon, but then when we look at it, we're like, oh, we identify with you. So when Fanon speaks about the substitution, that decolonization is a substitution, and he goes on further and he says the first shall be last and the last shall be first, and that's how he defines it. And I always have like an uncomfortability with the idea that I must now occupy the same, I must now occupy the position of my oppressor. I have an uncomfortability with that. And I guess my question, which doesn't even require an answer, is how do we guard against mimicking the colonial system when we are in power? How do we, because we are, at the end of the day, black bodies exhibiting whiteness in so many respects. So how do we, as colonial subjects, who now get substituted and who now move from being last to being first, guard against mimicking the oppressor, even in a decolonial world, if such does exist? And then also a question that I've been confronted with, which I'd also like to throw at you, it's always is how do we imagine a decolonized institution in a colonial world? And maybe one could even answer that by saying that as soon as we change the institution, we'll be able to change the world. But how do we begin to change the institution when by the time I come to the institution, I'm already a fully advanced Bantu, as Mbuyiseni put it? And then also, when we imagine a colonial world, what do we hold, and what do we, it is a complete destruction of everything? Do we maintain some things? Do we let go of some things? And then if so, like yeah, I have a lot of things, but then I must also add that, like, yeah, I enjoy, that's for Mbuyiseni, I enjoy how the EFF is pretty much a joke, and like it pretty much mimics the parliamentary system in parliament, because for me that is another, it's like as black people we want to be the CEOs, we want to be in parliament, we're doing so much that maintains the system in the name of colonization. So yeah, Amanda.
Nelson.
The gentleman was
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I'm exercising this fast fading power of the professor to select you.
Well, if only because I want to I talked about Fanon before. I'm talking about Fanon tomorrow, so I feel a little bit compelled to talk about. No, because it is part of a larger issue. We can talk usually about democracy, liberalism, modernization, forever. But we just speak a little bit about decolonization, and it's already too much. It's already been too long. We are just, it's time to wrap up the script and move to something else. And there's usually a key double, how do you call it, double bind. Double bind, no, double judgment, right? That you judge very differently the two things. It's a different value system. There's the same thing when it comes from Fanon. We can talk about we have